going to play this for a little bit before we go live ourselves. Like it? Eyes are watering. Thought about that. I mean, just like that. They say seize the day, like seize them. Sure. One person waiting.
All right. Live audience.
I think we can do that. Me. There we go. Why do you pause? No, if you can see at the top, there's two Facebook pages and YouTube, and then I'm on the Twitter.
I'm having her hear you
Okay. Oh, it's 9:19. Wow, my eyes are watering so much. It's like 6:29. I had some questions because I read and your family and friends, that was wonderful. probably fell. Oops. Ah. It has to do something. Hey, everybody. My name's Roxanne Davenport, and I'm here on Seizure of the Day. And I'm going to be talking to Laura Beretsky about her book. And I'll let her talk about it, seizure controls and managing life with epilepsy. So we'll get her on here. Oh, I got 3 of you. Let me take that off. But there you are with your book.
Live, in real life, and here.
Yeah.
I can share the book, just like I was holding it. In fact, updated the cover since it first came out, just to tweak it a little. Put a little purple in there for just like you have behind you, the support color.
So, when did you write the book? How long has it been out?
It has been out just about a year. Came out at the very end of 23. It's got a copy dated 24, so just about a year. It's the end of 24 at this point. I started writing it in 2016, so it took 7 years from beginning to end there to get it out there in the world. Yeah, and so it's been an interesting first year, learning the ropes of what it takes to publish a book and put it out there in the world and spread the word about it.
Right.
As a first-time author, yeah.
I haven't written a book, but I just blog anything that happens. So that's how I, proceed with what's happened with my life and what's going on in the world. And I talk to people like you. So I want to thank you for coming on and talking about everything that's happened, because with being pregnant during, having epilepsy and all the medications and having to go through all of that is one thing that we have to decide with. And then work. That's another thing.
Work, and then parenting too, child raising.
Right.
All of it. It comes with more than your average amount of risks, right? If
It does.
Also managing a seizure disorder. But to back up a second, I want to also thank you for blogging. I sort of consider anybody like either of us warriors, epilepsy warriors of sorts, right? Putting the word out. I also blog. I started blogging in May of 22, sort of leading up to my book publication, hoping to generate a platform, put my name out there in the world, and I haven't stopped. I'm actually working on a blog now about a new bill being introduced in Congress to establish a national plan for epilepsy. But I blog monthly about some epilepsy-focused piece of news, often human interest, sometimes policy focused, just going to run the gamut, but it's got to have an epilepsy connection.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah, because there's a lot of misinformation, a lot of myths out there. And so I sort of see that as my way to give back and try to rectify that. Now that I have, now that it's not weighing on me anymore because my seizures are under control, that sort of took this on. That was part of writing the book too, the big reason for it. Yeah.
Well, that's great. And how old are your 2 kids now?
My kids are 15 and a half, and my son will be 18 next month. They're in 10th and 12th grade. They're high schoolers.
Yeah. And, well, talk about, they were young and you would go to school, and, it's sort of like we're going through the same thing with children in school and how old they were, and to know what to do when you have one.
Yeah. It was kind of a big thing, a big request, I'd say, to put on a child, like to sort of, oh, mom's having a seizure. I've seen this before, but I'm only 5 or 6. What do I do? But my kids sort of had to know the answer to that question by the time they were old enough to process it, and they did. But because it was such a big ask of them, when my seizures started to become a little more frequent and a little more severe, it was because of them that I sort of found the courage to say, okay, I'm going to investigate this surgery option. It kind of scares the bejesus out of me, but
Oh, yeah.
this is too big of an ask. This is too risky. These seizures, they seem to be getting more severe, and I don't want. It's just too much for a little kid to put up with. So that was 2013 when I made that decision. So in 2013 they were 4 and 6, and then when I had this surgery a year later, they were like 5 and 7. 2014.
Yeah, I know. Some of the things, the procedures you have to have done, it's like, okay, I want to have the surgery, but then I have to have all this. And it's like you're waiting a year before you
Right.
can have the actual surgery.
Right. All that test prep that had to be done. Yep, yeah. It was a haul. It was a haul, and then that first surgery. Well, and for the first 2 months, I thought it went really well, and in retrospect, I can say it was successful. But there was a glitch, because I think what happened, I had what's called a right temporal lobectomy. So they took a kiwi-sized portion of my brain out, where they figured out in advance, here's where the triggers are, this side here, right side. And they could figure out, they run tests, memory center, language center are not over there, they're elsewhere. So Laura
Mhm.
can do okay without that kiwi-sized chunk, and they took it out. And they were absolutely right. I woke up and my first thought was, am I still me? Do I have my personality? I really was like kind of nervous, just wondering that, but I was fine. And except something happened during the surgery, I think. What they told me like months later was they thought a vein got stretched. And so a subdural hematoma developed. So almost exactly 2 months later, I had to be rushed to the ER. I was having big grand mals, like in one after the other, status epilepticus, and it was in response to this hematoma, and it required an on-the-spot second brain surgery, a craniotomy, where they had to irrigate my brain and get rid of the hematoma, and that was a hard surgery to recover from. That took a year. That was big, but in the end, I would say it was successful. The whole thing, I'd call it a success. It was a glitchy success, but now, here I am. I just celebrated my 9th anniversary of seizure-free years, 9 years seizure-free. So it was unpleasant. It was hard. It was a haul. But if I knew in advance that I would have to go through something that hard, I'd say it is worth it, because living with seizures continually, those days where you don't know what's going to happen, you never know, right?
Right.
Right. So it was a trade-off, and I would do that trade-off again. Not that anybody would ever tell you in advance, you're going to have this really horrible near-death experience. But no, the doctors wouldn't say that. But so be it. It was worth it in the end, because it was a game changer to now walk through life without wondering, oh, is this going to be a day that I have a seizure or not? I just know it's not, because it's been 9 years. And so there's a certain level of assurance that I can walk around with now that was never the case before 2015. And so that's worth that long haul, that assurance, and knowing I can be there for my kids, and just
Mhm.
get behind the wheel. I never had my license until 2017. So it's the first time I've ever driven was when I was 50. It was really exciting.
Yeah. I got my license when I was in high school,
Mhm.
until I started working, and the job I had, was where I had to take call, and I didn't get the right amount of sleep that I needed, and nobody knows about epilepsy and sleep,
Mhm. Right.
um, and that's when I started having my seizures like you'd have, but mine was on the left, and
Mhm.
it's just so, yours was on the right, but you had an aura like I did, almost
Mhm.
feeling sick, and it's just, you can't tell people, they don't understand that it's a different sick than when you feel like you're gonna throw up,
Mhm. Yes. Yes.
and when you have the flu, it's a different kind of nausea than what you feel your aura coming on,
Yep.
and
Yep.
it's amazing what your brain can do, but you don't want to have a seizure for you thinking it's amazing. But you have a wonderful family that
I
help
do. Yeah.
and friends.
I do. My kids got through that. In fact, Liam, who's applying to colleges, his college essay actually kind of tied together his interest in transit and urban planning and my epilepsy. He actually wrote about the experience of witnessing a big seizure and being the one to call 911 that day, and tied it into how he wants to um, be an urban planner and get better transit out there, because as we both know, if you don't have a license, it's really hard
Yeah.
to get around in most of this country. It really, I always said there's only 7 or 8 places that feel totally comfortable to live without a license. And I live right next to Boston, so I'm in one of those places. They're incredibly expensive places to live, and it shouldn't be so limited. It should, and so
Yeah.
anyway, so my son sort of is very big on the transit advocacy, does that. It's a passion of his. That's what he wants to study, and
Oh,
totally tied that into his college essay with my epilepsy and
you need to
watching.
tell him thank you. I
Yeah,
say thank you
yeah, and we'll
because
pass that on. Yeah.
yeah, because amazing what he's seen, and now
Mhm.
helped him decide what to do. That's wonderful. Maybe it's expensive, but maybe I need to move up there.
It's very expensive, but I couldn't imagine not living somewhere without a car. I guess some of it is my formative years were in New York City. That's where I grew up until I was 13, more or less. And so it's also what was familiar to me. And then once I realized, oh, I'm not getting my license, this is too dangerous. Well, I gotta live somewhere where there's a subway because I can get myself around there. And that gives one a certain sense of independence that feels, it's just important
Yeah.
for one's well-being, I think. So yeah, and going back to my family though, I have a daughter who was a little younger at the time, and so I like to think maybe doesn't remember have quite as many scary memories, but she had to withstand it too. And then lastly, kudos to my husband, my partner Mark, who
Oh,
you know
yeah.
kind of was by my side through thick and thin. Those operations, both of them. The second surgery, I was out of it. He was the one who had to say, yes, go ahead with this. He had to sign the paperwork. Kind of scary position. So
Yeah.
yeah. And then the
I
long,
read, everything, how he kept everybody informed.
yeah.
I mean, he sounded amazing, or read, that he was great to help.
Yeah,
And
yeah, he was, and my extended family came through during the post craniotomy. I just, like I said, it did take a full year to recover from. There was a period of about a month where I could not be left alone because my brain
mhm.
kept going back to grand mal seizure pattern, which was wild and upsetting because grand mals were not my go-to, not my MO when prior to surgery. And I was like, oh my God, I went through the surgery and now everything's worse. What the hey, WTF is going on?
My mind, I have a vision thinking, uh, your artery, or you said vein or artery,
A
that's
stretch
correct.
vein in the brain. Yeah.
That stretched. I
Yeah.
just trying to picture that in my mind, how that happened, and going through the surgery again. That
Yeah, I mean, it's a little mysterious. And what I will say is, again, I feel very blessed that I was in terms of proximity. I was really near a renowned hospital. I was very near Mass General Hospital, but I was at the mall with my family when this happened. And so it wasn't hard for somebody to call 911 and then rush me over to this hospital that had all these resources and somebody with the skills to handle that scenario you know
that's great.
um so
Yeah.
that again, that does feel kind of lucky, and to me speaks to the importance of being near good facilities, which are not as prevalent as they should be, right?
Right.
Look, I happen to live in a state where there's 7 or 8 epilepsy centers. An
Mhm.
epilepsy center is a facility that there's certain criteria they have to meet. They have to have providers who are specialized in epilepsy, epileptologists. They have to have certain equipment to be able to do those
Right.
operations, like the VNS or the surgery I had. So, when you look at the website, they're not necessarily, they're in most states, but not all states. So again,
Mm.
that's.
Yeah, being in a rural area like I
Mhm,
am,
mhm.
um, there's like, mm, thank goodness I live 15 minutes away from one that I go to.
Good, good.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
then there's another one that is starting to do more neurology studies. So they just have to grow that those hospitals are only like, depends on traffic, maybe 5 minutes away from each
Mhm.
other.
Oh, that's good. I mean, that's
Mhm.
convenient for the patients. But what's really tough is when I think about folks who live in the more sprawling states like Wyoming and
Uh-huh.
Montana. And so any facilities are going to be clustered in the main city or two of each state. And you got a long ass drive if you live in
Right.
rural parts of the states.
Right.
That's confounding. Like, I guess now there's telehealth, and so you might be able to get some assistance, some services, but then all those tests, you got to go
Oh,
in person,
gosh, yes.
right? You got to, they're going to stick things on your head and record and this and that and the other thing. You got to be there. Can't do that by telehealth.
Right. Try, numbing that one side of your brain and
Mm,
trying to talk like, what is this? What is
right,
this?
right.
So
That's an
that's just like,
in-person
oh,
procedure.
well, it was fun for her too. But, it's different how you explained yours was on the right and then mine was on the left. It's just amazing how the brain, you know, works in different ways because, oh gosh, my vocabulary and the definition of words, I have to say the meaning, but I know what it means
Mhm.
when you wrote it in the book. And that's my problem.
So is that a form of aphasia where the words, like, you can't recall certain words? I think
Oh
that's what that's
gosh.
called, aphasia. No?
Yeah, well, yeah. Oh gosh. People sometimes finish sentences for me
Mhm. Mhm.
because they are like how you could now if other people don't know it until I mention it to them. So if you could tell how long it takes me to say something, then when you do, because you have the word that I'm saying the definition of.
Uh-huh.
So that is something so different with between the left and right.
Yep. Yep, that's right.
Yeah, because I had a fever when I was a baby, and it caused scar tissue in the area closest to my vocabulary.
Mhm. Mhm. Language center. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So it's how the brain works. I still read up. I don't work now either because of mine aren't under control, but they're not as often.
Mhm.
But I automatically wake up in the morning and think, oh, well, when am I going to have one today? Because of everything you go through the day before.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah,
it's
the
you'll be
aura.
kind of gauging,
Uh
like,
huh.
based on the experience, and also, do you find you have an aura one day, you're more prone to have a full seizure following that? Because they cluster, right? That's what I
Right.
always noticed.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
they kind of, a seizure will beget another seizure. Sometimes they're little, sometimes they're bigger, but they do follow each other. What I've been told by doctors is that our brains learn those patterns, like the misfiring
Uh
seizure
huh.
pattern, and then once it starts, it can be really hard to stop, right? And
Right. Right.
unless you're lucky and your brain responds to meds, which, yeah, I think you and I both had refractory seizures that don't. And so then you got to look into these other treatments that are more
Mhm.
invasive and more complicated, and fingers crossed, right? Because
Yeah,
sometimes
yeah,
it
fingers
might all work.
crossed. I used to have 10 to 15 a month,
Mm.
but they weren't the grand malls.
Mhm, mhm.
They, were the complex partial petite, but there's another word for that
Now
now.
called focal impairment awareness.
Yeah,
So focal, yeah. They changed the names on us, and so now we gotta
they
like
do. They do. Uh-huh.
really more on it to keep up with the times. They stopped calling medication anti-epileptic drugs. They're now anti-seizure medications. All the lingo is being updated as we speak.
I know. And writing on the webpage
Mhm.
I have to remember to put focal seizures instead of the complex
Complex
partial.
partials, right? And then yeah, put
Uh-huh.
it in parentheses, also known as. I do that too. Yep.
Uh-huh. Yep. Um, they you talked about the vagal nerve
Mhm.
stimulator. I have that.
Okay. And how's
And
that been for you?
when you said that, I looked at my wrist and I'm like, "Oh crap. I'm not wearing my my magnet."
Uh,
I didn't put it on before we came live, so I'm thinking, I better not have my sick feeling, what I
well,
say.
luckily. So
Hmm.
yes.
But
And all we can do is
fighting it
hope.
off before I had my seizure, my operation was in 97.
Uh-huh. Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And that was a lot earlier than yours. And you know what? I saw that they told you only 30%. Yeah. Well, they told me 90.
Oh, really? 30%
Yeah.
success, you mean? Yeah, with the
Before,
VNS,
yeah. Well, no, with my surgery.
with your surgery. Mhm.
Yeah. And them coming back after 3 years.
Oh, wow. No, they told me
Yeah. I was like,
70%. 70% is what they told me.
they
Success.
told me 90. And I'm
Uh-huh.
like, okay, why did you say that when
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
in the 10 and now the number has gone down? It was just something like, all right now, did you lie to me?
Mm,
But it's I had mine before my oldest daughter was a year and a half years old. So her not remembering me, um, I wanted to do it then. So that's what really made me decide.
mhm, mhm. Similar, yeah,
Yeah, because
similar
you
impetus.
you being able to walk everywhere that you could go and taking the subway or the bus, something like that. I don't have that out here.
Right, right, yeah. I
And so I've now that my girls are in one's married and one's in college,
mhm.
I moved, sold my house, moved into an apartment that places I could walk to. Finally.
Finally,
I
alright.
mean, it's not everything's real close,
Mhm.
but oh my, I couldn't imagine pushing a stroller everywhere out here. We
Because
do
of the
have a
food spread out.
sidewalk, but it ends when it gets to the road where you go down and it's all houses. So you have to walk a little bit on the street, but
Mhm,
being able to push a
mhm.
stroller and getting on the subway, um, and people not reading our tags if we have them on, like you get it for a reason.
Right, right,
And
and nobody ever did that, but I like once, maybe, mostly they didn't. I actually had a little label on my stroller too.
right, I remember that was a great idea.
Yeah, but I'm not sure it ever got read, I'm really not, but yeah, it definitely mattered and made a difference to live in a walkable city, and that's where, again, I think that sort of inspired Liam, my son, to, like, go this direction and, just make more places, even if there's not a subway, like, you're in, it sounds like a middle-sized, middle-ranged area, not quite a city, but not as sprawling
Yeah.
as where you previously lived. It's problematic if there's not sidewalks, right? It's hard right?
Hmm.
It's harder to get
Yeah.
around. And
Yeah, it is.
that's just true. Suburban areas, they don't have as
Mhm.
the sidewalks aren't as reliable. They're just not
Uh,
necessarily there.
oh gosh. And if I have to go to the doctor that it wasn't scheduled,
Mhm.
my my insurance, I could schedule it ahead of time if I have an appointment. But if it's an appointment that wasn't planned, I have to pay for the Uber. The insurance doesn't when I call ahead to tell them, I need one now. So that's hard
Yeah, yeah,
with
that's
what I had to pay the other day was like, oh man. Oh,
it's
but
it's something to keep in mind. Like I earlier mentioned how expensive it is to live near Boston, which it is. But before I had my license, I generally didn't take cats very often or Ubers very often. I didn't even have an Uber account because I could get around by bus and by train and by walking. And so you save some of that money that you pay towards higher rent. You're making it up by not paying for Ubers and cabs as much, because in a town like this, you really don't need it that much.
right. I
And
mean, not paying for me to own something, but paying to live where I don't have to take those.
yeah,
That-
yeah.
It's 50-50, because the apartment I moved into after my girls left
Hmm.
um, cost more than what my house payment was.
And my cat wanted to join us.
I know. Well, mine, he wasn't trained to know about seizures,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
but he knows.
Right.
So that's why I didn't put him anywhere while I was doing this.
Hmm.
But I think he saw something outside. So I can't believe it when he knew I was and knew I was going to have him, and I could sort of tell when he stays by my side throughout the
Hmm.
day and not wanting to go out as much. That is like, okay, when am I going to have one?
Yeah, it's a real thing, and the canines, the dogs that get trained, they actually can. There's a scent that they can pick up, and the
Right.
person's sweat and so on. And then they kind of start they alert people around them, and then there's other doggies that aren't quite as trained, but like to pick up smells, but they can see that, oh, my human is in distress, right?
Hmm.
And so they take care, they know, like, oh, I should do something. It is kind of amazing.
It is. It
I've
is.
not heard about kitties being trained.
Well, maybe.
Maybe this girl, she gets if she hears the kids yelling at each other, having a fight, or getting into a tiff with their parents, she gets upset about that. But it did not depend on her when I was having seizures so much. But she's a sweet girl. This is Kit Kat. That's her name.
That's good. Yeah, it sort of helps when you're having a bad day. For
Totally.
me, now that my kids are out,
Hmm.
I start I start talking to him
Yep. Yep.
because he's the only one that and it's like he just tilts his head. It's funny. But I want to get back to what your book
Mhm.
and how you talked about working your job,
Yes. Yes.
because I knew a little bit about that too. So I want you to explain what
What
happened.
happened? Yeah. You know, I worked pretty much. I worked full time until I was a parent. Always, despite having the seizures, and they happened during my 20s and 30s infrequently enough that I never felt like this is something I need to disclose during an interview, prior to getting a job. I just I took my jobs, and I waited until my brain basically sort of outed my epilepsy. I had a seizure on the job. I was like, oh, that happened. Okay, I better gotta explain that to whomever was in the room, that kind of thing. And um, you know, it was all fine through the 90s. I worked for I was a housing advocate for 12 years, and then moved on to grant writing. Got tired of doing the direct service work, and
Oh.
just became a grant writer because it's behind the scenes, just a lot easier. Writing is a skill set of mine that comes naturally. So I was at this organization, this big nonprofit, well known. I had to change their name because you'd recognize it. I bet you might. My book, I called them Medusa, Make Everything Dandy USA. And I'd been there. I'd been working there. What? Really, almost three or 4 years at that point, and had a seizure at work. Well, two things happened. I started to have them a little more frequently. Not quite sure why. And then had the first grand mal seizure I'd had in like 10 years while at the office. Okay, well, that was kind of creepy. You know, a lot of people I knew had epilepsy, but not everybody. But you know, it was a big enough seizure. They were scared. They called 911. I had to be rushed to the ER. So be it. Understandable. I mean, not fun, but I totally get why people witnessing that would want to bring in professionals, medics. And then within like a month or two of that seizure that day, I had my manager gave me she started a disciplinary action against me. And I was like, to me, this seems like they might be connected because it just didn't make sense. It didn't add up. What she was saying I did wrong. I'm like, that's really not true. And so on. So that all happened in like, oh gosh, June of 2005. And that place was unionized, and I fought it back, and they never admitted directly to being discriminatory based on my epilepsy. However, when I said, I think this is what's going on, and you're violating the ADA here, the Americans with Disabilities Act. If you're concerned about like public facing activities I might have to do, like in my world, talk to a donor, give me a behind the scenes job. I'm a writer. I'm a good writer. I have a history here. I'd been there almost 5 years at that point. And so they never admitted to it, but then they sat down with me and offered me a severance package, a year of pay, and benefits. In between there, I had a baby. I was grieving my evaluation while on maternity leave. I know they just thought, she's having a baby. She just won't come back. I know that's what they were hoping. Most people might have done that. I was tempted. Mark, my husband, was like, you don't have to go back. You can just leave. I'm like, I don't like what they're doing here.
Right.
It's all wrong. So I went back and basically sat down in behind closed doors with some HR people. Said, you never ever sign that bad evaluation, because I'm like, that's wrong. I'm not signing this. And they said, okay, well, here's first they offered me 6 months pay, and I'm like, that's not enough. I said, you ruined my life in these ways. You didn't allow me professional development, advancement. This was hard on my personal life, my family. I'm giving up a job here. This is a source of income. I want 5 years. Well, they turned around and they said, we'll give you 1 year. I'm like, I also want out of this room, man. I'm under the microscope, and this is hard. So I took my 1 year and I left. And
wow,
that felt good, because the fact that they offered something was an acknowledgement. They wouldn't openly say, yeah, we did this, but if they're offering me money, they're kind of admitting it. And I agreed I would never out them, and I didn't. I took them there. If you look at my LinkedIn profile, that organization's name is not there to protect confidentiality. That way I could write openly about it, just give everybody different names. And but the story is out there. I could get the story out there and protect confidentiality, and sort of put it out there in the world that, it's hard as anything, and emotionally trying to fight that, but it is possible to fight that, meaning discrimination, when it happens.
Yeah, well, it oh gosh, one of the places I worked, the boss, when I wrote up for one thing and then wanting to fire me, he just copied that one page to send to the unemployment, center, where it's like, oh my gosh, why did he do that? They're some people are horrible about not knowing.
They are, and they react emotionally to something that's scary. I would say I get that seizure witnessing somebody having a seizure, especially if you're not familiar with it, can be scary.
Right, it can.
But the solution isn't to like just get rid of the scary person or the scary incident. It's to learn about it. And again, in this country, because we have the ADA still, you know, to accommodate, you know.
I know.
So
And I worked for a big employment, and I was in the medical field.
right.
And one place I worked, I transferred to another one. And you would think the boss would know not to tell a coworker. That's what happened to me.
Oh,
They found reasons to keep her and fire me. So it's horrible, the things that people don't know about the ADA, and maybe they're learning more about it. I don't know. I mean, I've been out of work for a while now because I finally had to fight, saying, "What I go to McDonald's or something. What can I do if I working with the fryer or something, and I have one, and I'm." You don't want me to drop some food, because then I was having 10 to 15 a month.
That's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah,
Something
that's
happening in public facing place. We're much higher at that point.
yeah. So I finally got a lawyer after 3 times trying. I mean, I hate it because I loved what I did. And if I wasn't having any, I would go back to work. But I'm still having them.
You are.
Yeah, I've gone down to 3 to 5 a month, and I'm trying to keep up with when they're occurring, and it's stress.
You mean keep up, like look for a pattern?
Well, yes, keep up. I'm sorry. Keep up with the pattern of when I have them. What happened then? Did anybody upset me, or something happened in my life?
The triggers.
I get enough sleep.
Yeah. We all have triggers, and they're slightly different for different people. But yes, stress and lack of sleep. Sometimes low blood sugar will do it. Sometimes people with photosensitive, or it's lighting,
right?
Heat, like we discussed the other day. Heat. It's a lot of things, right?
I hate when the leaves in the winter, when there are no leaves, and the trees it's hard to explain, but like they're flashing going down the road, and I have to do this to not see them.
Oh, because of the flashing, the shadow back and forth.
There's just limbs, and it's like, okay, I got to look this way, and I can't see because,
even that could trigger it.
All these different things that could do it for people, because I've talked to so many other patients that to see what their problem was, and there was one that was photosensitive, and one bright lights, and it was just, our brain is just so amazing of what it does, and but the people need to read your book, because I've read and talked to someone who has written too, and a couple of people from England, and how they had to fight, and how different England deals with patients that have epilepsy, it was mainly, we talked about epilepsy. I don't know about the other disabilities that people have, but it is so much different.
Yeah, they have many more advocacy resources there. They do, and people are more aware. I mean, going back to the book, I'll make a plug once again. Hold it up. Find it online, bookshop.org, Amazon, Barnes and Noble. You can go to my website. I'm gonna put.
That's a private chat. You can go over to the other side, or I can put it I can copy that and put it
Yeah.
on
The thing I'll say about my website, and you can buy the book there, but also my blog is there. And so I am very dedicated to getting at least one interesting story up a month, sometimes two. I had I thought, interesting story about artists using their skills to promote epilepsy awareness and sort of connecting it to other artists over the years, starting as far back as Emily Dickinson, who had epilepsy.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yeah. So check it out. You can sign up if you fill out a form. I'll send it to you directly. If you fill out a form.
We've already been talking for an hour, and I can't believe that. And usually I'm done with an hour.
Well, some of
But,
it might have been the intro at the beginning, but yeah.
well, no, I stopped it
Oh,
at
you did?
9:30.
Okay.
I just play it for 15 minutes before so
Okay.
people can read about you, get an idea of what we're talking about. But I can't believe we've been on almost an hour. But yeah, thank you.
And thank you. And if you email me the recording of this, I'll post it on my own website, and
Okay.
we go from
Yeah.
there.
I will do that.
Thank
With
you.
the one on YouTube, I'll email that to you, copy it, and you can show it.
Yeah, I'll put it on
Your
the
site.
website. Yeah.
Yeah,
Perfect.
because that way people will know they can read your blogs
Right.
too
Right.
after they buy your book.
We shall see. It is. I can assure you that it will almost certainly not be a bestseller. It has not been, and unless somebody very famous has a seizure and gets a lot of publicity, maybe it would go up. But that's okay. I wrote that knowing I was doing it. I consider it a labor of love of sorts. Just
Yeah,
get the
that's
word.
how I never thought I would write.
Mhm.
Like I told you about my words, my vocabulary.
Right.
But that's how I got everything off my chest.
Yep. Sometimes that's just what we got to do. Yep.
But thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. You're very welcome. Thank you too. Thank you for both putting my voice out there in the world and also for the work you do, because it's all part of the same goal, I think, and it's nice to know that there are others out there doing it too.
Yeah, it's amazing how so many people are different than others for what kind of seizure they have.
Yeah, very unusual. All right.
So, again, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad my dog didn't
Nothing too much. Yes.
bother mess with us. But yeah, and that way the people that know you can check out your website, and I will put that on here.
Thank you very much. Okay, you be well.
You too. And it was nice talking to you, meeting you.
Yeah.
And I have you on Facebook too, and I will put down where to get in touch with you with Facebook.
Thank you. Yeah, do that.
Okay, thank you, and bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I enjoyed talking with Laura, and I will post this on my website and her website. That way you can check out her book, and because it was real interesting, and I enjoyed it about how what she went through with her job and how family and friends have helped her, and being pregnant with epilepsy too. People just need to read and understand, so they won't think we're weird, or about the lives we live too. So again, I want to thank Laura and check out her book. I have it on the beginning of the YouTube and the other places, the LinkedIn, and check out Facebook, and then I'll put it on her Facebook page too. So thank you again, and seizure of the day. We will see you another day when somebody wants to feel like they can talk about having epilepsy. So again, thank you.